Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tea with She, episode 2, De-stress when feeling distressed. Hope everybody is well. Hope everybody's comfortable. Grab your cup of tea, because today we have an amazing speaker, one of my close friends, I would consider, and just an amazing person altogether. What I'll do is I'll let Fatima introduce herself.
Assalamualaikum everyone. Listeners, thank you so much for being here. We value your time, we value your presence. As you know, my name is Fatima Raad. I am a mindset strategist, a coach, a mentor, a trainer, and a public speaker. I also work as a maternal and child health nurse in a local government agency, and I have worked extensively as a midwife, a clinical midwife specialist, and a nurse in public hospitals in Melbourne.
So if you've been following the She campaign for a while now, you've probably met Fatima Raad already, and you know that this episode is going to be a really fruitful one, an enjoyable one, and something that we'll definitely be able to walk away from, gaining some knowledge and experience. Just to start off, we're in a pandemic. We've been in one for a while. It's a bit hectic, it's a bit crazy, but we definitely had to adjust our way of living, kind of move with the times and take every day step by step. So Fatima, I just want to ask you, during this, this pandemic, and more specifically here in Melbourne for our international listeners, here in Melbourne, we're in a stage 4 lockdown, meaning we have a lot of restrictions on our everyday. How are you coping, Fatima? How are you managing your day to day, especially with the kids at home?
So for me, alhamdulillah, that's a really great question, Fatima. So for me, I have 5 young children, 4 school age and 1 at childcare. And I work as a nurse 3 days a week and a life coach every other day, alhamdulillah. And my husband works as a teacher. So for us, we have been impacted in that, along with many other families, we've had to homeschool our kids, which means there's extra work to do for us at home when physically we can't be in 2 places at once. So working from home and homeschooling, it sort of seems impossible. And so for us, what we've tried to learn to do is to reassess what's really important and just do what we can. During this time, we've had to really lower our standards and really start to look at each other and say, hey, you know what? Good enough has to be good enough, because we can't do everything at once. It's just not feasible. It's not doable for any human being, let alone a family of 7. So, it's been an interesting time, to say the least. Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing that people are struggling with, trying to accomplish everything while being in such uncertain and unprecedented times. What people are feeling is like, especially parents juggling kids and work and all of this, it can be really overwhelming at times. Have you developed any new skills during this lockdown? Because everybody seems to have a little bit of extra time on their hands being stuck at home. What are things that you've developed during this time?
So for me, I don't know about having extra time being a mum. Like, I'm sure that the mothers out there will agree. There's always something to do. I can say that my house has never been this organised, ever. I've gone through probably every single cupboard, closet and box inside the house, and moved things around, given things away, cleaning out spaces, really focusing time and energy on the things that I've said before COVID. I wish I had more time. I'm really thinking, well, what did I need that extra time for? Was it reading? Was it writing? For me, I love baking. So I've got out the things in the baking cupboard, I've got the kids involved, and just the pace of things has changed a lot. So before there was a lot more rush, and now it's like, yes, my son, you can help me ice those cakes because we ain't going nowhere and you're going to be eating them.
We'll have time to do it.
That's exactly right. So really just enjoying the different pace, but there's always things to do, alhamdulillah.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Like at the beginning of the pandemic, beginning of the lockdown, had a newfound passion for baking. And I was with
Nice.
my little brother baking every day, and there would be times where we'd bake like 2 or 3 things at a time. I'm just like, we're just baking for the sake of baking at this point. But definitely things like a while back I started learning different languages, and now I feel like I don't have an excuse not to do it. I feel like now I have time, and if I don't do it, then it's more like, it's not that I don't have time, it's just there's no willpower.
No willpower, or it was never really a thing that you wanted to achieve.
Exactly.
something
So this
really
has
want to.
definitely been an opportunity to start doing things that I've always wanted to do, or continue things that I've stopped in the past. Um, just to start on a positive note, what are the silver linings? You know, find any silver linings for this lockdown, or
Oh my God, so many
yeah.
silver linings. Alhamdulillah. So where do I start? All right, so the environment. I have never seen so many families embrace walking with their kids ever.
Mm,
With people out on the streets that wouldn't normally get out of the house, would be stuck to the TV or be in their box, their car. So I'm seeing kids out and about. I'm seeing families reconnect and get really, really excited when they see one another in the street, and the waves are so intense, and people are really starting to enjoy the simpler things in life. So
definitely.
definitely that would be one of them, would be our environment. Also, I'm finding less pollution, so the air seems clearer. The sky seems bluer. I don't know if that's just my positivity talking, but I can definitely notice that there's a lot of things that we can find to really celebrate during this time. I also notice there's a really increased sense of community as well. I think people are really looking out for each other a lot more than they usually would, in terms that, we're going back to our roots, we're going back to the Sunnah, we're going of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we're going back to those moments where we really need to be watchful and mindful of those around us. Our neighbours in any trouble? Do they need anything? There's a real level or sense of community that's resurfacing, which is beautiful. And I'm also noticing loads of innovations in businesses, and I'm finding that, if COVID's given us anything, it's highlighted the gaps in society. It's highlighted the gaps in businesses, things that are missing, that perhaps a wonderful entrepreneur will come in, fill that gap and do it amazingly well. So it's giving us an opportunity to do things differently and embrace new ways of doing things.
Mm,
Um, and also, finding new things, finding new ways of doing something we've done potentially the same way our whole lives, and not ever questioning it. For example, if you were going to a state conference, you'd have to travel into the city or into state, whereas now everything's virtual or online. So there is potential to move and shift and do things differently. So there's heaps of positives, alhamdulillah, as well.
alhamdulillah. And just bouncing off what you just said before about like the community, I've noticed just a general sense of gratitude. People are realizing, you know, in especially myself, things that before we never thought twice about. Going out for a coffee with a friend, it was just a phone call away. So we kind of started to realize all those things that when we had them, we didn't appreciate. And although we're not all around each other, I feel like there's an increase in social connectedness. Like friends that I usually haven't called in a while, I have this sudden urge to message them and check up on them. So it is really surprising that in all this panic that we're being able to find the positive and grow from this experience.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Even those cousins that you probably never talked to for a long time, you're calling them and you're enjoying the conversation. And it goes back to the old saying, you don't know what you've got until you lose it.
Yeah,
And so now
definitely.
you've sort of lost that right to just hop in the car and go and travel, within, it has to be within 5 kilometers and with a very valid reason. So when it's being taken away from us, we're wanting it more. So
Yeah.
inshallah, when things come back to some sense of normalcy, I really believe people won't take things for granted as much.
Yeah, it does seem that way. And I've just realized I've just jumped straight into a conversation with you that we didn't even kind of touch on the topic of today. Uh, this is what I mean. Like, genuinely, Fatima and I are good friends. So when we get around each other, the conversations just are endless. But the topic for today and what we really want to touch on and kind of discuss is our mental health and our mental well-being during this pandemic and being in lockdown, being away from family and friends, and having to change what our reality previously was. Just to start off, do you think that the pandemic has had a negative impact on people's, mental well-being?
Yeah, look, unfortunately, I do see that, especially in my nursing practice and even as a life coach. I'm finding a lot more people are suffering from the social isolation and loneliness of just not being able to be around other human beings. And that's a real issue for us because, as we know, subhanAllah, we were created to function and flourish in groups and amongst other people. And I was reading this recent research, Dr. Cole, when he's a researcher in America trying to understand the biology of loneliness. And he said something that summed it up beautifully. He said, loneliness acts as a fertilizer for other diseases. And that 50% of, people who live in loneliness, and especially primarily the elderly, are, a higher chance of developing dementia and more chronic diseases. And I thought, wow, like loneliness has an impact not only on the way we feel about ourselves, but on a cellular level. Like it actually impacts our cells and our body and our biology. And this is huge, right? Because that's a negative impact. Because we can't, unfortunately, visit as many people as we want to. So loneliness numbers are going up. So that's one thing. And the other thing is anxiety and worry. A lot of people have a good reason to be worried now. And anxiety, as we know, it's not going to kill us, and it's designed to protect us predominantly. And people have got jobs. They don't know if they're going to have them at the end of this. People have been, laid off. People are running out of money. They don't know how this is going to impact their family. Students are not going to know how they're going to go with their graduation or their exams. Singletons might be thinking, how will I ever find love? It's funny, but these are all real things, Others are wondering, how long is this going to be around for? And I guess the uncertainty of not knowing what's coming can really be a source of stress for a lot of people. And another thing is, feeling that there's a loss of control. There's a lot of things that have a lot of our basic rights have been taken from us. Our ability to hop in a car and drive and visit someone is essentially not okay anymore. So that feeling of loss of control can be an onset or a trigger for more anxiety. And, there's other mental health illnesses that are on the rise and suicide rates and things like that to be aware of. But I will preface this, I will let you know, Fatima, that I'm not a clinical psychologist in any means of the word. I'm a life coach, so I'm trained, but I'm not a psychologist, and I also am a nurse. So these numbers are literally going off by human contact that I've been having, conversations I've been having, and just the general consensus of what people have been saying to me. So,
Yeah. I think that's really important as well, though, having those anecdotes and experience with people, I feel like has a profound, it has a profound effect in the sense that it's just not numbers. These are real experiences. Just bouncing off what you were saying in terms of uncertainty, I feel like people are very comfortable in their way. And this, everything that's going on is taking people out of their comfortability, which serves as a shock or a panic. Constantly paying attention to the news and what's going on and the constant rise in numbers of this and that, it definitely has caused a panic for people. And often people have experienced a lot of issues in regards to loneliness and, feeling down and sad. But in terms of, feeling overwhelmed, what are some of the signs to look for when somebody is, becoming overwhelmed or they're having a really bad day? What are the kind of things that we should be looking out for?
Okay, so what a great question. So I guess so we're human, right? So we experience a myriad of emotions on a daily basis. And I think what's really important to note here is that it's okay for us to have a bad day here or there. It's actually quite normal. It's normal response to our external stimuli, whatever's happening in our environment. And in fact, we shouldn't be afraid of that. When it starts to become a problem is when we're having prolonged periods of sadness or prolonged periods of anxiety or worry or fear or overwhelm. We're feeling an overwhelming sense of heaviness, like something's hanging over our shoulders or over our head. It's impacting the way we go about our daily life. So things that we usually enjoy doing, we lose that enjoyment. We're losing that drive. We're losing those function to be able to do the normal things that we want to do. A big one is sleep changes, noticing that our sleep is being impacted, and not just the amount of sleep, but the quality of sleep. So you might find that some people say, I sleep all the time, I still feel overwhelmed. Well, yes, you might be sleeping a lot, but the quality might not be good. Another huge one is lack of concentration or a feeling of feeling spaced out. I mean, these are all warning signs about something else that's going on, and it's really important to seek support and help.
Yeah, definitely. That's on more of a focus on the individual, but in terms of reaching out to loved ones, because we're not able to just, drive down the road and see our family or our friends. What do you think people should be looking out for when communicating with their loved ones to sense if they, are feeling that sense of overwhelm?
Beautiful. I love it. And I love that question because it's not always black and white.
Yeah,
A lot of the time when you speak to someone you love or people that are around you and you ask, are you okay? You usually get that I'm not bad or I'm all right or it's all good. And these responses are not really reflective of what the person's feeling on the inside. And I say that because when you think about how many times somebody's asked you, Fatima, how are you? And you were probably having a pretty, average day and you said, I'm not bad.
yeah,
How many times did that actually mean that you're not bad? So the subconscious is saying, I'm not bad. The last thing you hear is bad.
yeah,
So why wasn't it, I'm fantastic, The other thing is when you ask someone the question, so the first thing I'd say is ask the question with the intention of waiting for them to respond and answer
yeah,
fully. So don't ask someone, how are you? And then get distracted with a screaming baby. Talk to your husband or shift your attention somewhere else. So it tells that person, okay, in no words, but it tells them in the way you're behaving that you are not ready for them to tell you how they're feeling. And so that person subconsciously will suppress how they're feeling and won't share that with you because you haven't built that rapport and trust. Even though they're your family, even though they're your friends, your best friend, even so, when you are going to ask someone, how are you, make sure that you've just developed a wonderful rapport and you are solid, you're ready for an answer. And by all means, please do not ask like this. Say, how's everything going? Good.
mm,
You've just told that person you can't answer with anything other than good because you're not ready to hear the answer. Okay, and because that person loves you, they will protect you by not actually telling you how they're feeling. So the first thing is ask the question and wait for the answer. Make sure that rapport is really strong and you have a wonderful connection. And don't let the rapport go by being distracted, talking to your kids. Ask the question and wait for the answer. And don't be surprised when they tell you they're not okay. If they're willing to open up to you and tell you what they're feeling, don't be surprised, okay? You'll break the rapport. So things that you'd look for is, a general, their tonality might be different. They might sound flat. They might be talking to you about overwhelm. They might cry instantly. They might be telling you everything seems too much. They might not even be answering your call or your SMSs or responding to you in a timely manner. They might be posting negative stuff on social media, or they may become defensive or start little nitpick fights on, online. So all of these are signs that somebody is really reaching, needs some support and needs some time and attention.
That's really interesting that you say that, because I feel like, just humans living such a fast-paced life and just bouncing from one thing to another, we've lost the ability to actually listen. We can hear it, but we're not listening. We're no longer attentive. And it is really detrimental, because that does push people away from seeking help or talking to you. Now, we've talked about how to recognize it. How do we, help somebody who says to us, I'm feeling really down. I've had a bad day and it's not going good for me. How do we respond to that?
Beautiful question. So my husband always tells me, Fatima, we have subhanAllah 2 ears and 1 mouth. So if we think about it, we listen twice and we speak once. This is especially important when you're talking to somebody and they are sharing with you a vulnerability. They'll come to you or you've come to them, you develop that trust and rapport, you've got them to share with you how they're feeling. So what do you do when they tell you they're not doing well? Firstly, you listen. You just listen. You don't try and fix anything. You fight your ego to want to say something like,
Mm,
oh, that happened to me, you'll be right. Or, oh, don't worry, that's normal. You just be quiet and listen. There's so much power in silence and listening to somebody. And if you think about it, when was the last time that somebody said to you, how are you? And then just, they didn't speak.
yeah.
Did you automatically feel like crying? I know that happens to me all the time. Somebody tells me, how are you? And they develop this wonderful rapport where they listen. So the first thing would be listen to the end. Don't interrupt and don't offer any advice. If they want you to offer advice and they want you almost to act like a mentor, then perhaps you can advise them. Once they've said everything they need to say and you've listened and you've reminded them, and you can do little things like, you're safe, you're here, I'm here, take your time, you're doing a great job. Just let them get whatever is on their chest, get it out.
Yeah.
The next thing is you really need to make sure that they're safe. So out of any immediate danger, or that they're not making threats to harm themselves or anyone else. That would be a second thing. Make sure they're safe. Hey, are you at home now? Are you all right? Are you comfortable? Are you safe? Just ask the question.
Yeah.
And then get them to do some deep breathing would be a good one. But I think if you know that they've got a previous mental health concern or issue, definitely get them to get in touch with their psychologist or counsellor or GP and make sure that they're covered on that perspective. But as a friend or a sister, all you can do is listen, make sure they're safe, offer support, and then make sure they've got follow-up care and, where they need to be on time. So don't leave them alone. And then check in on them, check in on them. Now, the other thing to note here is I see a lot of people doing this, if you need anything, let me know. Now, while that comes from a really wonderful place and a really, a loving and kind place, people who are feeling down or numb or depressed or anxious or sad or overwhelmed, they don't know what they need a lot of the time. They can't, there's no clarity. They can't see it. I mean, some people do, but for the most part of it, you telling them, let me know what you need is like, it's like you washing your hands and saying, it's up to you now.
Yeah.
But I tell you what's even more powerful than saying, let me know when you need something, is making a meal and dropping it off at their home.
Wow.
Sending
Something I would have never thought of.
Yeah, sending a card in the mail. Hey, I'm thinking of you. You're loved. Sending off a $15, $20 bouquet of flowers to their home.
Yeah.
Sending them a message with a photo of you and her and saying, hey, I can't wait to hang out again. It's actually doing the act of caring rather than waiting for them to hit the ball back. They can't hit the ball back because they're not motivated.
Yeah, definitely.
So I think that would probably be the best thing we could do.
That's some amazing advice, because I feel like we've all, once before been guilty of that. Let me know when you need something. It's that half-hearted response of, I want to help you, but you come to me first. And I think that's the problem that we have, is when somebody reaches out to us, we just wait for them to reach out again. We don't follow up with them. I'm definitely guilty of that. I definitely prove that.
I am too. And the only time I learnt it was when I had my kids, and I realized the ones that sent food to my house, I was so appreciative of them. I was like, you're like an angel. And it literally is. You're cooking a meal, add another couple of cups of rice, more veggies, a bit more meat, and send it to them. That's it.
Yeah.
And trust me, you will impact that person so positively that they know you were thinking about them. It says so much more than, let me know if you need anything.
Yeah, definitely. And also, in a way, it's about removing yourself from your reality or your everyday and thinking about that person. It might be a small thing for you, but the person who's receiving that is massive. Like, if I received a pot of biryani from my friends, I'd be like, this is a true friend.
Wink, wink.
Yeah. So those little things really do make the difference. And I just want to touch on, when a person reaches out. So, for example, I give you a call and I say, this is just theoretically speaking. I say, Fatima, I'm not feeling like myself. How do we respond to family or friends who are dismissive or, don't listen to you reaching out, that invalidate your feelings, basically?
Okay, so am I the family member that's going to be invalidating?
Yeah, so I called you and you're invalidating me.
Please, that's going to be hard to do. All right, so, all right.
How do I respond to that?
How do you, as the person seeking support, respond?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think it's really, really important, Fatima, to know who you can trust and to know who's going to be there for you and offer reciprocity in terms of respect, love, and compassion. Now, a lot of the time, our family are very well meaning, very well meaning. They love us, right? And unfortunately, a lot of us, I mean, I'm, half Lebanese, half Greek, we were brought up with this notion that emotions were bad and that we shouldn't really have many of them and we should stay in a constant state of happiness and joy, right? That was pretty much the gold standard. But the real, and so therefore, any other emotion like anger, fear, sadness, worry, that was not allowed, we were not allowed to express or experience those. So when you come to somebody and you share with them how you're feeling and they sort of just throw it back at you and say, yeah, it's all good, don't worry about it. There's two things to take into consideration here. Number one, they probably don't know what they're doing or the impact of what they're doing is having on you. Number two, perhaps choose somebody else to talk to about it because they're not going to be giving you that love and support and connection that you're needing at that time. All right. It doesn't mean they're bad people. It just means that they potentially don't know what's going on. All right. That's the first thing. The second thing is, obviously, you can seek support outside of your family. So I think later on you're going to talk about Lifeline and other sort of psychology supports as well. I think it's important to have that in your back pocket as well. But for you, know that it's not personal. They're not trying to attack you. They just don't know what to do. And you being anxious makes them uncomfortable. It makes their ego feel scared because guess what? They don't know how to respond to you. So they'll shut you down and shut you up so they feel better about themselves. It's not actually about you.
Yeah.
Right? So you get yourself up and you go and speak to somebody else. That would be the best thing to do.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that sometimes talking to friends, or family, that they can be emotionally unavailable as well to take on what you're saying. Maybe they're experiencing something themselves, or maybe they just don't have the capacity to take in what you're saying. And I think it's really important for people to respect that. Often we get offended, like, this person's my friend, why aren't they listening to me, or why aren't they helping me? But what we have to understand is at times that person is not, ready to take that on.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I would even go as far as to say that, like you said, Fatima, I always ask myself this question when my ego gets in the way and starts to say, oh, she didn't listen, she doesn't care. I ask my ego, hey, you haven't asked if she's okay yet. Like you haven't, you don't know if there's something going on and you can't exclude that something's going on for her. And so, okay, hey, no worries. I can't do that now with you. I'll find someone else. But then later on, when you go back, you realize that potentially she was going through something as well.
Yeah. I think a really important aspect to this is also adapting our behavior and habits during these times, because things are different. So we need to change with the times. We need to be adaptable. So what are some ways that you think that people can change their behavior and habits to prevent themselves from, even getting to that position where they are overwhelmed and they're at their wits' end?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in the immediate, a good thing to do is start to learn how to breathe properly. A lot of us don't know how to breathe. We all think that we have to breathe with our lungs, but in actual fact, breathing with our belly is the most optimal way of breathing. So learning how to do big belly breaths to help us calm down in any situation or environment that we're in and help us ground and know that we're safe. That would be the first thing. Second thing I'd say is take a news break, like literally get off watching the news. Don't worry about the updates. If it's not going to change or impact what you're doing currently, right now, today, in the next 24 hours, don't watch it. If it's really important, you will get the information. And that's the same for social media. Social media algorithms, they work out what you're interested in. And if all you've been doing is scrolling through the news articles, well, then guess what? You're going to get loads more of that coming up. So definitely take a break. Also, try your best to break the stigma around mental health. Mental health is huge. It's important. It impacts Muslims, non-Muslims, everybody. So give yourself a break if you're just not feeling your best. Talk to somebody you love, somebody you trust, and seek support from a GP, from a counsellor, from a psychologist, whoever you need to. Get support. That's what I would say.
And I think I just want to touch on to your first point, because people, we don't pay attention to the concept of breathing. In terms of breathing exercises, personally, when I'm, sitting at my desk, doing my uni work, been sitting there for hours, can't break through it, I find doing these breathing exercises composes me, it centers me. And becoming centered, then I become more aware of things and I pick up on so many mistakes, or I realize things. So please don't dismiss breathing. A lot of the times when I tell people, calm down, breathe through it, they're like, breathing's not going to help me. It's like, it really does. It does make that difference.
Breathing is huge. It's huge. When you think about when you become anxious, you breathe, you're taking shallow breaths. Your brain it stopped functioning on the level of, everything's okay, and kicks over into fight or flight because you think you're going to die. So your heart rate increases, your breathing gets more shallow, and you're getting ready to run.
Yeah.
So it actually impacts you physically and mentally, your clarity. You lose clarity in your thought. And you might start to, I guess, catastrophize. So breathing really centers you back into the moment, into the now, and helps you realize that you're safe, that you're okay. And it really does diminish those overwhelming thoughts.
You mentioned before the stigma associated with mental health, and that is a really big thing. I can talk about the Muslim community and the ethnic community, African community specifically, because that's my reality. And I can say it is something that is not only denied, but it's cast aside. It's not accepted. It's not acknowledged, and it's really detrimental. We could probably do a totally different, podcast on that one. So we'll get onto that eventually. But if we start talking about that, we're going to be here the whole day.
That's it.
I just want to talk about some of the things that we can, incorporate in our everyday life to improve our mental, physical, and emotional well-being, during this lockdown.
Oh, wow. Where do I start? Oh, my goodness, this is the best part of the podcast. So, number one, I would say, and I really, 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 really embrace this for myself, is to be okay with where you're at. And this sort of talks to the stigma about it. Be all right with whatever you're feeling. There's no shame around the way you feel. There's no shame around feelings in general. We've been raised in a lot of cultures and society that feelings are scary or feelings are wrong. But reality is that we're human beings, and as long as we're here on this earth, emotions and feelings are part of the human experience. So be okay with where you're at. That would be the first thing. Second thing is try and stay positive. Inshallah, this is a temporary thing. Really start to focus on, hey, what do I want to achieve? Set yourself some goals. Who do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? What new skill do I want at the end of COVID? What am I going to use this time for? Focus on what you can control and not less on what you can't control. We can't control the rules that the government are implementing based on the health advice. What we can control is what we do at home, what we do within a 5K radius, what we do with, those phone calls or those Zoom parties that we can have. We can focus only on what we can control.
Yeah.
Stay connected, a huge one as well. Now, I'm not just saying stay connected with others, and there's lots of things you can do. You can go back to basics, the phone calls, the SMSs. You can even write a letter, send out a card. You can embrace new technology. Now's the time if you ever had a problem with Zoom to learn how to use Zoom. Hey, we're all starting together. We're all in kindergarten together. The whole world is learning how to use these new concepts. But the other thing is definitely stay connected with yourself. Start to check in on yourself. Hey, how are you doing? How am I feeling today? Oh, is that how I'm feeling today? Okay, maybe I need to tune into that. What do I need to give myself today to feel better, to process this emotion, to move through this emotion? So connect with yourself. The other thing is connect with Allah. Connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, your creator. Connect with the higher power. Connect with someone that, for us Muslims, we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the controller of the universe. So for me, when I submit to that, it makes my problems seem a little less heavier. They seem a little lighter because I know that in the scheme of things, I'm one person. So connect with Allah. Look up at the sky. See the glory of the sky. See, subhanAllah, look at the clouds. Look at something green. Green is wonderful for the soul. And reconnect with the earth. Get your socks off. Go in the garden. Stand on the ground. Let that beautiful nature. They've done studies that suggest that if you go and stand on your grass or the bare earth for 10 minutes a day, you realign your body, your cells. Your cells need the earth. The other thing is, stay healthy, develop, have these routines. I know that with COVID, a lot of people, it's very easy to fall into the sleep all day and watch Netflix all night, right? But it's going to really pose a problem later on down the track when things go back to normal, inshallah. So keep a routine going. Wake up, have a shower, go for a walk, have regular meals, be healthy, try and choose, healthy foods, stay hydrated, get your brain thinking optimal function. You want your body to be, your body is the vehicle that you have to experience this beautiful world. So we have to look after it. And the other thing would be develop coping strategies to manage your stress, So if before you never thought stress was an issue for you and now it's popped up all of a sudden, start to realize, oh, okay, so this is a normal response for a global pandemic, right? Because I don't know about you, but in my 37 years, I've never had a global pandemic. So a level of stress and anxiety is normal. So back to point one, be okay with where you're at. So how do you learn and develop the ways to manage your stress? It could be listen to Quran, read Quran, breathe, meditate, learn how to feel things, be in touch with your body. Often we're human, we're human doings, not human beings. We don't know how to be in this body. We don't know how to experience our body. We're so disconnected from our body. That's why we harm our body with harmful foods and harmful behaviors. So that would be another one. And lastly, the one that is helping me the most, gratitude. Develop daily gratitude practices. Say Alhamdulillah. Write down a list of things you're grateful for. Studies show that gratitude actually supports good, mental health. It improves your well-being. So develop a daily practice of gratitude. There's so many more, but I'll stick with those ones, Fatima, and I hope that's helpful for your beautiful listeners.
No, that was amazing. That was some really, really important points. And one thing that has definitely stuck out to me was in terms of spirituality and, connecting back to Allah, connecting to the Quran and prayer. And I found that, just through talking to people and interacting with people, that this pandemic has created two types of Muslims. One that takes us as, this is the qadr of Allah, which is correct. I'm going to restart in 2020 next year. This year is we're just going to go with the flow and we're going to be productive next year. And then there's the ones who recognize that, this is now a reality that we have to adapt to, and we have to move with the time and change with the time and be adaptable. Change in the sense that, okay, I can't go to the gym to exercise, but let me go for a walk with my family. Or unis are closed. So I know some people who completely dropped out of their uni courses because they're like, well, uni is closed, I can't go, but there's online classes. So I think that it's definitely created two kind of people that it's interesting to look at, because as you were saying, it's time that, we kind of be grateful for what we have and, take advantage of everything that we can. But just to kind of bounce back to one of our first points, in coping with uncertainty and anxious feelings, because that is probably the biggest thing at the moment, is just feeling uncertain about what's going on around the world. And that is definitely affecting people's mental health. What do you think about that?
100%. 100%. It would be, it would be odd if you were just constantly positive and yay, new opportunities. I mean, hey, nobody knows what this virus is doing, and the long-term impacts on people, like mental health and the economy and all sorts of things. So now is a great time. If you're ever wondering when is a good time to experience a level of anxiety, I think now would be that time. And I think it's really important to note what is anxiety? I mean, just as a recap, anxiety is not dangerous and it's not a wrong emotion. Anxiety is inbuilt in us. It's a part of our body that is activated when there's a perceived threat or, an actual threat. Our body changes so that we can run, so that we can find shelter and safety. And for a lot of people, not knowing what tomorrow will bring is anxiety provoking. But my question to you is, did we ever really know what tomorrow brings? Can we recenter and identify that we've never truly known what tomorrow brings? We always took tomorrow for granted, thinking that tomorrow would be the same. But as we've all gone through it together, we know that it's never the same. Nothing's ever guaranteed. So love where you're at would be my first advice. Secondly is, control the amount of information you're receiving. I think that's a huge one. I know I've said it before a couple of times so far, but really, really, being a watchguard to your mind and just standing at the gate of your mind and saying, I'm not going to let all of this information overload flow into my brain and alter the way I function and think and feel for the day. Accept that uncertainty is certain. There is certainty that there is a level of uncertainty. Would you agree?
Definitely.
When have we ever known what tomorrow would bring out? That Allah is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the unknown, the unseen, we believe in it, it's with Allah. So accept that, hey, let's just be okay with where we're at and work with what we've got, right? Another thing that I do for my kids at school, because I mentor and do classes for kids at school, would be really just to have a worry jar. So if things are getting overwhelming and you think, oh my God, there's so much going on in my mind, I'll tell people, hey, write down everything that is worrying you, that is filling up your brain right now, and put it into a jar and shut the jar. And you're like, well, what's the purpose of that? But I think, well, if you get it all out of your head, you create some space and clarity for you to get on with your day. And then when you're feeling safe, or when you're with someone or a counselor or a psychologist or someone you trust, you can open that jar out and pull out the papers and say, this is what I'm worried about. And you can get support and talk through that with them, right? It's actually having a physical thing, because a lot of the time, it's funny when I tell my kids or myself or others, hey, can we think about something else? It's like we hold on to our worry. We're afraid to let it go because it'll pop up some other time. So I say, you don't have to let that go. Just put it in the jar and shut the jar, and we'll open it when we can. And it makes them feel like, oh, okay, that worry is safe. It's very strange. And again, I'm not a psychologist, but it's wonderful how our brain works.
Interesting.
If your sleep is impacted, what I would say is definitely, focus on developing good sleep hygiene, okay? So people with anxiety struggle a lot with getting to sleep. So start a sleep routine an hour before you go to bed. Shut off your devices, have a warm bath, do some meditation, do some deep breathing, write in your journal, put some stuff in the worry jar, moisturize your face, wash your feet, whatever you need to do, and hop into bed. Put your comfy pajamas on. Make sure your bed is clean. Make sure it's free of clutter, and enjoy your bed. So hop into bed. And literally maintain a good sleep routine would be one as well. Try not to stay up too late into the night, and really develop those healthy routines, and obviously seek support where you need.
Just listening to you touch on that had me thinking that when you really think about it, there's so many different strategies that we could incorporate in our everyday to manage with feelings of uncertainty and manage with the daily stresses and overwhelming feelings. What are a couple of other strategies maybe you can think of that we can incorporate in our everyday life to manage with stress?
So a level of stress is normal, okay?
Yeah.
But like I said before, taking some really deep breaths, connecting with others, even stuff like stretching your body out, meditate, exercise regularly, share your concerns and your feelings, write them down, talk to somebody you trust and know. Avoid any excessive things in your diet, like Muslims, we don't, drugs and alcohol, but if those things are an issue, cut them out as much as you can. Cut out anything that's excessive, any excessive food, any excessive consumption, any excessive TV, any excessive news. Cut those things right back, and really start to check in with yourself when you wake up in the morning. How am I feeling today? What do I need to pay attention to? What do I need to pay less attention to? How can I get through today? And not just get through today, but how can I make today productive, and how can I flourish? Who do I need to talk to? Who do I need to connect with? And it's really just touching in on that. And, I think that's the best way moving forward. And reassess as well your priorities for the day. if you've got a big to-do list, well, if you're already waking up feeling distressed, well, what is it an absolute must that I need to get done today? And if anything else is a bonus. So don't put that extra pressure on yourself to get a whole lot of things done. And then attach your worth to that. Just do what you can. Be okay with where you're at. Appreciate that the whole globe is in the same page right now, and we can all get through this together, inshallah.
Inshallah. That's some amazing advice. And we're getting close to the end of the podcast. So I just wanted to end on a positive note. So, what are some of the positive impacts the pandemic has had on the world?
So many. Okay, so I've been thinking about this for a while now, and I thought, well, in 20 years' time, and I talk to my kids, inshallah, if we're all still alive, and talk to them about, this COVID experience, and they ask, when my 2-year-old, for example, asked me, what happened, I'm going to tell him these things, okay? I'm going to tell him that there's been less carbon emissions in the environment because people aren't driving around as much. And so our world is taking a big, beautiful, deep breath in and out. The skies are bluer, the trees are greener, subhanAllah, global, emissions globally are down. We're giving our environment a chance to rejuvenate. Like we said before, there's an increased sense of community because self-isolation requires us to reach out and interact with people in other ways. There's innovation in businesses. I know there's one company in America that was making bras for a living and now making face masks and making lots of money. So, lots of innovation, new gaps, new opportunities for entrepreneurs that are occurring. A lot of common rules have been revisited. The way we do things are changing for the positive, inshallah. Gratitude. People have got a greater appreciation for the small stuff. A lot of people are reassessing their priorities and redirecting their attention to things that they can impact positively. And another thing, infectious diseases all around are down because there's less overpopulation, there's less overcrowdedness. They're saying crime rates are down. They're saying all sorts of things are changing because people aren't able to move around. Now, obviously, there's a lot of negative things that come with that as well. But there's also some really positive things that we can think about and focus on, inshallah.
I think it's really important to focus on the good because when you really compare them, at times the good outweighs the bad. So
Allah Karim. Yeah.
I could sit here and talk to you about emotional well-being and mental health all day, but we're going to wrap it up. I just want to say thank you to Fatima for joining us this episode and enlightening us with all her amazing knowledge and advice. Where can people find you, Fatima? Your socials and everything?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram, so Fatima_Raad_mindset_strategist. So you can follow me there. We can have a chat, a complimentary chat, inshallah. Also just my Facebook page and a Facebook group, inshallah, that we will provide the link for, I'm sure, no doubt, in the information to follow, inshallah.
I also just want to end with neither Fatima and I are psychologists and we don't claim to be. What we are is passionate about mental well-being. So this is a discussion based on the strategies that we can incorporate in our lives just to be more positive, be more mindful, be more optimistic. So if you are listening in and you do suffer from depression or you do suffer from anxiety or anything in regards to that, we will leave links or references for you to contact in terms of finding support. And just to end with the fact that we as a community need to remove stigma away from people who are trying to seek support or who are looking for that support system. So thank you so much for listening in. You can find any information about us on our website at www.theshecampaign.org, on our Instagram page, our Facebook page, which both I think is _the She Campaign. I hope I'm right in saying this. All the information will be below. And I want to end with a comment about a fundraiser that the She Campaign is currently doing. The amazing girls at the She Campaign are really passionate about all issues that affect women. And the fundraiser that we're currently doing is tackling period poverty. So we are raising money to make sanitary packs for girls and women who can't access affordable sanitary tools. And what this will consist of is a number of things for feminine hygiene. And all that information will be in the link, which I can actually give you. It's quite a simple one, which is launchgood.com/support-the-cycle. So you can go onto that if you do want to support us in raising money for disadvantaged women and girls. And looking forward to the next talk. Thank you guys. Bye.
Bye.